Hi, I'm Kathryn Templeton, and I just want to follow up on my two earlier talks about stress response. We've talked about Vata dominance and Pitta dominance in the nature or constitution, and I want to talk a little bit about the Kapha dominant stress response. Certainly, folks that have more water and earth in their constitution can have an anxious response with stress, but oftentimes we see their stress response come on the opposite end of the continuum. Because their nature is to build, they have a tendency to create situations where they can become steady and stable and supportive. That's their inherent nature because of the water and earth qualities. They tend to have more heaviness, dullness, slowness, a sense of steady, almost stagnation that can occur when they feel stress bombarding them. They tend to dig in and hunker down. And that's problematic because they can't really move out of the situations, let go of the situation, because that's not their nature. So oftentimes we'll see either dysthymic, long-term low-grade depressions as stress response from Kapha, or sometimes more of an acute melancholy situation, not really clinical, but almost like a prodromal grieving situation. There may be an actual avoidance of dealing with conflict or an avoidance of looking at the situation that can occur, almost an ostrich in the head in the sand that can happen for Kapha dominance, or taking on the whole problem and getting overwhelmed. They want to take care of it all for everybody. So none of these inherently are wrong or bad, but over the course of time, they can cause depressive symptoms. And I use that term in a non-clinical stance. But excess heaviness and sleep, maybe an overeating that can occur because they don't want to feel, so using food as medication, lots of sweet taste, maybe some sour and some salty taste. Accumulating weight often is an issue, which then creates dullness and stiffness in the joints. There may be some mind fog that occurs, which we often see in depression when there's a Kapha imbalance in the mind because of stress. So we need to use our yoga, Ayurveda, and psychological practices to support more stimulation in this case. In yoga, we would say the word they become a little more tamasic. Ayurveda would agree with that. So what do? We want to use a breathing practice that's going to get some stimulation in there. That bellows breath of Bhastrika, so pumping the belly and getting rid of the stagnation in the lower lobes of the lungs and bringing new vitality, new breath into the system is incredibly useful as a morning practice, which is the time of day. So using a Bhastrika breath, that bellows pumping breath, is going to help to bring in some stimulation and amp up the system, because in the morning, which is also the Kapha time of day, it can be particularly difficult when there's a stress response occurring for Kapha dominance to just get going, get up and going, right? So we want to use that. Helping the Kapha dominant person move. So they're very good with routine. So encouraging them to maybe go for a morning walk, a vibrant morning walk with a Vata or Pitta dominant pal. It'll help the Vata and Pitta person begin to be outside in nature, which Kapha loves. It'll give some regulation to their Vata friends. And Kapha will do just about anything with a buddy. They're a very sweet social lot in that way. We want to decrease their tendency to isolate and avoid, so being with a pal in the morning would be a lovely way to do that. The other Ayurvedic practice I would suggest that they try is to bring in some more pungent taste to their diet. Pungent is an alchemy of fire and air in Ayurvedic medicine, and it'll help to stimulate the Agni or digestive juices. We often need to stimulate that when Kapha is having a stress response because their Agni becomes what we call mandu, or slow or dull. So amping that up, not with excess, but adding a little black pepper or maybe some ginger to the diet. Even some cinnamon will help to give a little bit more support. And then finally, again, using our CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, to help them break up the stagnation that thought will always have the same action, because that's not the case. We can break up these patterns that have created a potential depressive symptom for this client by showing them there are multiplicity of feelings that can go with a thought and many different variables about actions they can take from that thought and feeling pattern. This is very important for Kapha dominance because they tend to get sort of in a rut with their routine when they get a stress response. So finding ways to use yoga, Ayurveda, and psychology in a methodological, skillful manner to create a wraparound treatment plan will support your Kapha dominant friend so that their stress response can be mitigated. While they might have some melancholy, They won't stay in it as long, and it won't be something that's creating as much pain and suffering for them if we can give them these tools that they can use for their own self-healing. For more information, please look at my website, KathrynTempleton.com, and please check out Yoga International and Banyan Botanicals for articles as well.